Today marks the day of Sanka Drug Addiction Awareness Week and Youth Month as well, where drug use statistics paint a grim picture in South Africa, especially amongst youngsters. The average age of experimentation in South Africa is around the age of 12, and according to statistics, about 12% of all South African learners had used at least one illegal drug, such as heroin, mandrax, and cocaine. This figure is one of the highest in the African region. And recent reports from the South African Community Epidemiology Network on drug use suggest that cannabis, alcohol, and tobacco are the most commonly abused substances. Research shows that children take substance abuse for a number of reasons, such as peer pressure, poverty, escaping pain, and a number of other social issues. Drug use can cause serious health problems and may also have serious mental health consequences. Joining us in studio is psychiatric intake clinician Megan Hoskin. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today, Megan.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I mean, that's quite a grim picture that was painted. Current stats of South Africa as well, the age of 12. What is the initial, how do you put this? What is the initial factors that cause kids to experiment at such a young age in South Africa?
So like you mentioned, a lot of those issues that the youth are facing prompt them to start using substances as a method of coping. Obviously, it's not a productive method of coping, because all that happens is as they use substances, those issues are actually made worse. So we come into this really dangerous cycle where they try to use the substance to get out of the problem, and then the problem actually gets worse, and so they try to use more, and we end up in this never-ending cycle, really. In addition to that, we're looking at things like their environments, their family life, their friends. The peer pressure is a really big one, especially with school-going youth, because obviously if your friends around you are using and you're exposed to it a lot more, you become more likely to use it at some point.
On that note, I mean, what are some of the symptoms or signs that one can look out for, just to note that a child is actually on a substance that could actually dampen their future down the line?
So with the youth, what's really important is looking for any change in behavior. So that comes with the substance use as well as any other issues they might be experiencing. If you're noticing a change in their behavior, a change in their emotions, a change in their moods, then that's normally a red flag that something's going on. So we look at things like, are they more isolated than normal? Are they starting to miss appointments, bunk school? Are they rapidly cycling between being really happy and now being really moody? Are they perhaps eating more or less than normal? Have their relationships started changing? Perhaps they have a new group of friends. They've stopped hanging out with their old group of friends. Things that previously interested them don't interest them anymore. So perhaps they were really sporty and now they don't want to do sports anymore. And obviously it's important to look at all of that in the context of the young person's life, because there could be a number of issues influencing it, but it's important to have an open relationship with them that allows you to discuss these things with the young people.
Now you mentioned youth using these substances as a form of coping, or as a coping mechanism. I mean, what can be done to perhaps ensure that alternate skills are I guess, learned? Emotional intelligence is something that's not really emphasized in school.
No, and that's exactly it. Is obviously these young people, we're seeing a big rise in substance use between the ages of about 10 and 19. So that's your school-going youth. And so they spend most of their time at school, which means that the interventions need to take place at that level. Obviously, at home it's also important, but if we're combating this issue at a school level, we start laying a really good foundation for them to learn more and to have a safe space to come forward if they need help. So the school-based interventions are good, but unfortunately we're finding that most of the schools don't have programs like this in place. And it's really interesting actually that the research shows that once-off interventions are not actually as effective as we'd like to believe. So a lot of the time we come into a school, we do a massive, wonderful presentation with a lot of information for the young people, and then we leave. And this is not effective because all that happens is it piques their interest in what we've said. It leaves them with a lot of questions and a lot of unanswered things about their lives, and then we don't provide them with a support level continuing after that. So that's quite a dangerous space to be in. And so what we're really looking at is creating a more sustainable in-school plan that includes education, includes a bit of therapeutic intervention. Where can they come if they need help, if they need support, and ultimately creating a safe space that allows them to come forward if they're experiencing these issues, and then to get them the help that they need.
And then on that note, at a higher level, I mean, what support structures from school governing bodies, from the government at large, have come into effect to help support this initiative as well?
Yeah, so we need to really make sure that everyone that's in contact with the young people is prepared for this.
Yeah.
So that goes from your prefects at school, for example, all the way up to the governing bodies, and then all the way up to government. So we need to have these plans more sustainable at a community level as well, because obviously when you leave school, you also go back to your community. And I raised an interesting point the other day that often we're in the space where we think it won't happen to me. I'm safe, it can't happen to me or my child or my friends. And that's not true at all. There is no boundary for who can and cannot fall prey to substance use.
If people want to find out more information, how do they go about doing that?
So the internet's a really good space to start. A general search will give you a lot of information about various substances, various effects, but it's also important to filter what you're reading. So make sure that you're looking at credible sources. Also, obviously, at Akeso, we provide a lot of information like that. So for families and young people and friends who are concerned or have questions, we're the space to come to answer that.
At 12 years old, I mean, you're still in school, which means alcohol, we do know that there's an age limit on that. Cocaine is quite a pricey drug as well. And then tobacco. Who helps to make these substances accessible? I mean, how do the kids actually have access to them in the first place?
Yeah. So it's a bit of a frightening cycle that takes place as well, is that a lot of the time we're reading stories of young people being actually dealers. So there was a case in about 2007 where the youngest recorded dealer in, I think it was the Douglasdale area, was about 9 years old. I mean, at 9, you're not really in a space to understand what you're doing, but you're now being put in a position where you're actually supplying this drug to other people. So we're looking at people of influence. We're looking at people who are providing a connection to these young people that lets them believe they're part of something. And that community feel often extends, and now they're in a world where drugs are acceptable, where drugs are allowed, and that spreads. So when you're in contact with your friends and contact with your family, that pattern moves through. And obviously, if you're looking at young people who perhaps have parents who are using substances, specifically, for example, if they're misusing alcohol, that pattern is learned and it continues through.
What are the consequences of using such substances at such a young age for one's development into an adult?
They are absolutely numerous. So you're looking at not only your development in terms of your physical development, so obviously a lot of the drugs will impact the way your brain develops. You could end up with learning disabilities, you could end up with more severe mental disorders that are brought on by the drug use. And then also you're looking at just your social development. You know, you don't learn how to create proper relationships, how to maintain them. You lose your sense of self. You don't really develop the self-awareness that you need as an adult as well. And obviously then at a school level, it really impacts your school functioning. So now you maybe don't go to school, you have to repeat grades, you drop out of school, and obviously that then also influences your future.
Now it's Drug Awareness Week. I mean, what are some of the programs that have been rolled out supporting various initiatives that aim to help change that make that paradigm shift? Because obviously, as you mentioned, it's not a one-time go in, fix, educate. It's a continual process as they develop.
So there are some really good government initiatives that are taking place in a lot of the schools. Some of them are run by SANCA. And then also there are support groups that are run. So SADAG runs support groups. I know at our Akeso Mhlanga branch have a young person support group on I think it's a Thursday night. And then there's obviously our inpatient programs and things like that as well. So if you're at a point where outpatient support is not really appropriate anymore and you need more help getting off the substance, then that's also a good option.
Oh, I know you mentioned the internet is quite a good place to find information. Should people want to contact and just find out more on social media, how do they go about doing that?
Okay, so we have a really helpful website that is www.akeso, so it's akeso.co.za. And then our primary methods of communication are via email, which is info@akeso.co.za, and our 24-hour helpline, and that number is 0861 435 787. And then during the day, that normally comes to me, and we can answer all the questions that anyone might have and point them in the right direction for support.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Of course, we were chatting about today, which marks the SANCA Drug Addiction Awareness Week, as coinciding with Youth Month. Now, it is time for a break. We will be right back. Stay tuned.